since our target market has now gone, who's going to buy the stock? Who's the buyer? You have never been speechless in most of the time I've known you. Who's the buyer?
Look, there's still a plethora of Middle Eastern buyers, of American buyers, of Indian buyers, and some Chinese buyers. I don't think there's as much stock as you suggest there is in prime central London at the top end of the residential market, especially in new builds. The question is more relevant to such blocks as One Mayfair, which Mr. Caldwell is about to launch or has launched. There they're talking about larger units, very large units, and huge capital sums and huge prices per square foot. I think that is going to be your litmus test of the top end of the market. I really do. I've got quite a few inquiries, or my firm has got quite a few inquiries for big houses in prime central London. There are not that many available, but one inquiry now from a very wealthy English buyer who will spend 100 or 150 million pounds, but must have a 20,000 square foot upwards house, and it must have a garden. Believe you me, it's very difficult to find both those ingredients. But there are still buyers around.
For those special trophy things, I don't disagree.
What do you think a firm like Savills, how many properties does a firm like Savills or Beecham Estates or Knight Frank sell in excess of 25 million a year? Take a guess. In a good year?
5.
I would say more like 40.
Right, okay. I was talking about this year, but all right. Generally, you're speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year, look, we've just sold a house in Mayfair, which, as far as I'm told by my team and our joint agent, is the most expensive house sold in Mayfair, at least in the last year, if not in the last 18 months. I can't verify that. But the asking price was 20 million. Shows you something, doesn't it?
Well, I think there, that's more of a unique thing. But the thing that concerns me more is the likes of 60 Curzon. Who is going to come and buy those? We need to. It's not going to be the locals, is it? It's not going to be the locals, is it?
I think you've got to take the building itself. Take 20 Grosvenor Square. Fabulous building, fabulous entrance hall, fabulous reception area for people to sit in. Superseded One Hyde Park, very much so, very much more modern. If you take 60 Curzon Street, it's got a the whole reception where the porter sits is not bigger than this room. And then it's got a room at the far end of the corridor on the left-hand side, which is a studio flat that you use where people can sit and have a chat. It doesn't, and it's got wonderful facilities below ground, but your point of entry is not great. And I think that's one of the reasons, and not so much the reason about pricing, that not all of the flats have sold in 60 Curzon Street. I think when you look at, and again, time has passed, but when you look at 20 Grosvenor Square, Finn Chatton sold most off plan. We sold 2 flats there, total of over 100.
No, I mean, there will be, yes. I mean, listen, I hope that there is buyers coming in for the stock that we were building for this profile, and I hope there will be a U-turn. But I keep thinking,
you're talking this way. How's it going to help your? We're doing an interview and suggesting that prices are going to come down. That's the narrative that you're talking about.
No, I'm not suggesting that they're coming down. I'm just wondering.
Well, flats can't be sold.
Who's the new buyer? And I'm hoping because the world is big.
Come on, let's talk about history. South Americans, Israelis, Scandinavians, Nigerians. Over the years, there's always been one group of buyers that comes along, Chinese, comes along and takes the market. Who knows?
So we don't know yet, is the question.
The difficulty today is not so much everything we discussed, but KYC. And KYC, if you've got money that comes out of somewhere in Africa, for argument's sake, or somewhere in Tajikistan or wherever it might be, how do you prove your source of funds? How do you actually say, I earned my money legitimately? And those people who are going to become very rich from those countries, probably not going to be able to buy here
Right.
because they won't be able to bring their money in. Whereas beforehand, we had South American buyers, we had buyers from everywhere. There was no KYC. In fact, only recently has the KYC laws changed to incorporate what they should have incorporated years ago, the buyer and the tenant.
Trevor, I think you and I have been in the market for enough decades to say that property for locals has been out of reach for some time, and perhaps affected by the fact that the non-doms are less price sensitive. You know, it's a good place to be where, you know, you have got a lot of wealth that is outside the tax system of the place that you live, and then maybe you don't mind so much paying 5, 6, 7, 8,000 pounds a square foot for a property. Now, if they're out of the picture, and, you know, we have got developments that are in the pipeline.
Who buys those 5,000, 6,000?
Who buys those now?
Well, you know, oddly enough, we have a rich seam of Chinese and Hong Kong buyers, and they've got some serious money. We're doing about £20 million worth of transactions. One of them is looking at a £65 million property. So they've got some serious money, the Chinese and Hong Kong applicants. So it's not as though everyone is gone and there's no buyers. But it is true that the non-doms could leave a vacuum. But, you know, there are a number of very wealthy Americans that have bought. I mean, Tom Ford apparently has just bought a property at 65 million. I know two very wealthy Americans from California, a gay couple who are spending a lot of money here. So it's not as though we're going to be left with a total vacuum. And don't forget, as I said, London has got this irresistible charm and amenities and facilities all in one place.
No, I don't disagree with that. But, you know, I think that, you know, a British buyer, I can't see a British buyer, you know, coming back from the countryside to London and buying something that costs £7,000, £8,000 a square foot, even if they're trillionaires.
I can tell you that a British buyer has just, not just, but a few years ago, bought a property for £5,000 a square foot and knocked it down. So,
But the gems will always have their own market. I don't disagree. You know, I wonder whether some of these developments that are you know, in the pipeline, although they report from planning that very little is in the pipeline, but things that are already finished and they're there and they were going to be marketed to this audience. I wonder whether there's an opportunity there for big funds to come and buy these developments as a whole and kind of have a super prime portfolio of rental investments. I mean, you know, I'm just trying to think, like, you know, where are we going to go with the more standard sort of lifestyle, top end of the market properties?
and who will be the buyers, tomorrow's buyers for those properties? You
Yeah.
mean? Well, you know, I wouldn't write off the English market. You get a splattering of Scandinavian, of American, of Iranian, of East European buyers who, even despite the non-dom regime, that still want a property that they may keep, and they can come and go under the 90-day rules. So I don't see this as being a total vacuum. I don't think it's going to happen that way. And as I said, as I believe Lord Sugar, you know, who's gone off to Dubai, and I know Richard Desmond's gone to Dubai, you know, after a year or two of living in Dubai, you could find that even despite the tax regime, former non-doms, particularly the English ones, could find their way circling back to Blighty to enjoy the charms of London. So I think almost despite the idiotic attempts of the government to cause an exodus of these people, I'm not sure if it's the last word.